Hi, I'm Dawn, and this is where Shabby meets bling. Thrifting means a lot of things. Roadside finds, clearance sales, and yes, your traditional thrift stores. I'm going to be using all three of these avenues to create indoor and outdoor decor in my projects tonight.
This is Last Things Thrifted. I would like to thank my fellow creators joining me tonight. Marika from Marika Creations, Monica from Up All Night DIY, Jody from Jody at Southern Seasons, Annie from Crafting with Indie Annie Jones, and Zaina from OK at Home DIY. You're going to find the links to their channels and this playlist in my description box below. So on my way to the grocery store, this is what I see along the side of the road. And this is a very common occurrence, at least where I'm located. Look at this chair. Look at it. I mean, even the cushions are pristine. It is really something. She's old. I don't know how old, but she's a beaut. Solid as a rock. I mean, absolutely gorgeous. Look at the frame on her. I could do so many things with this chair besides it being a chair, but I have no room in my vehicle. But I do have room for this wreath and these suitcases. So cool. And look at here. These are 10-inch records. I'm taking them all. While I was looking, the owners of this house that were clearing it out invited me into their garage to take a look around. You better believe I took them up on that offer. So even more free goodies for me. And if something's free, that's a great way to be thrifty. Here's another roadside find, a little wheelbarrow. I didn't film it because it was a super busy road and safety first. So I picked it up, brought it home disassembled. I have kept all the components and you will be seeing bits and pieces here and there. Today, I will be using one of these handles, at least part of it, in one of my projects. So I thrifted this item, and when I say thrifted this time, it was at a traditional thrift store. It is a solid wrought iron. It has a little bit of a crack on the front of it. I got it for $3. This thing is meant to hold like a small umbrella or maybe a tiki out in your garden. But those things aren't in her job description for today. No, she's going to be holding something different. This old mailbox might look familiar to you, especially if you caught my wedding series. This was featured in the reception video. I will leave the link to that video and the rest of the wedding series in my description box. You can see the handle, the little flag, only goes so far. That rivet stops it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the rivet so my flag will go in a direction it's not supposed to. It is not supposed to go straight down with the flag like up in the air, but for my purposes, I need that to happen. So I'm going to take this rivet right here and I'm going to drill it out. Right now, the flag only goes 90 degrees. We need this to have a whole 180 swing because of the position the mailbox will be in when I'm done. This is really easy to do. It just takes persistence. With a little drilling, some hammering, and some prying, that rivet will pop right on out. When I get this thing all the way removed, I will take the top of the little rivet and glue it back into place because the inside part has been drilled away. So it's going to give you the illusion that that rivet was never removed. I picked up a pair of these decorative brackets at Hobby Lobby. They were on clearance, originally $11.99, and I got them for $2.99. I will be using one of them as an extra support for my mailbox. Remember the wheelbarrow handle? Well, I cut it apart and I have these two pieces and I'm gonna put them together like so, and then I will add that wrought iron bracket just like that, and this is going to get put inside that stand. And on the top is going to be our mailbox. I need to glue these two pieces of the handle together. So I'm going to sand where they're going to be glued. So that way they stand a much better chance of holding. After they are glued and clamped, I will also be sinking a screw down through both these pieces to hold them together for certain. We don't want this thing falling apart because that mailbox is not light, and if I put something in it, which you know I'm gonna, it's gonna be heavy as well. Once clamped, I sand the entire thing because you know this thing's gonna get painted. Yes, it is. But before I paint, I sink that screw to connect both the pieces for extra stability. I spray painted the 2 joined pieces of wood with a matte black Rust-Oleum. I am centering that bracket and I am going to clamp it, and I'm going to clamp it with multiple clamps to make sure it stays centered and exactly where I need it to be, which is level with the top of those 2 pieces that I joined together. Once I've got it clamped where I want it, I will put in 4 screws at an angle, smaller screws, so it goes through that old wheelbarrow handle and holds. Once I've added the screws, I unclamp it, and then I am going to add it to that stand. I make sure that that screw is unscrewed as far as possible without coming out, and then I add the handle. The T part is going to be to the back and the bracket to the front, and the giant screw in the stand is also going to be to the back. I get my tiny itty bitty little level, and I make sure I am straight up level and I am plumb. Level refers to something that is straight from side to side or horizontal, and plumb refers to something that's perfectly vertical. And then I screw the giant screw in the stand into my wheelbarrow handle. Now for some embellishments. I thrifted this thing for how much? Oh my, only $2.49. What a deal I got! It was a while ago. This is not one of the last things I thrifted. It was not, but I did thrift it. And I got it for the flowers. The flowers and the leaves, that's the only reason I got it. I think this thing is hideous as is, but the components will be super useful. I am going to cut the entire thing apart and then decide which of the flowers and leaves will be helpful in decorating my post and my mailbox. These are the flowers that made the cut. Made the cut. Well, the ones I'm going to use. I even found this one, this red one, that was going to be for another project, but I changed my mind, so I might as well use it for this. And I like the fact that it's a different size than the other ones. I'm going to just kind of slide this guy on here, and then I'll glue it and clamp it into place. But first, take a look at this. I thrifted this big old metal bow a long time ago. Can't tell you how long, can't tell you what I paid, but I bet it was almost nothing. I am going to take this bow and I'm going to disassemble it and use parts of it to make a new bow, a smaller bow for my mailbox. I start by using my needle nose, thinking that maybe it is just kind of clamped together, but that's not the case. This thing is welded. So I grab my tin snips and I cut it apart. It cuts easily and it unravels for me, and boy oh boy, look at all that metal ribbon to work with. I grab a nice piece and I form a bow, a 2-loop bow, and then I go ahead and I add extra tails and I glue and clamp it into place. I glue it with B7000. Back to my flowers, I am going to use B7000 on these as well to glue them to the other components that I want them glued to. Like one flower, I want to have some leaves, so I will glue it to the leaves and then I will clamp it. Once I get everything glued, they're going to get clamped, double clamped actually, clamp upon clamp to make sure they're nice and tight, and then I will set everything aside and let them dry. All my metal flowers have dried, and now I am going to paint the back of them a flat red primer. Once they have dried, I will flip them over and paint them a flat black paint, Rust-Oleum. I will use these clearance decorative tacks for the center of my flowers. I will paint them using 2 different colors. Here's another recent thrift. I picked up these gorgeous amethyst Venetian glass plates. They look to be mid-century modern, but I'm not quite sure. I do know they're absolutely gorgeous. On the back side, they say Italy, and they also have a number, and they're all different. One of them has a number 3, one's a number 8, one's a number 9, and the 4th one is number 11. How cool is that? I think they're absolutely beautiful. I I bought them at Goodwill and they were only $1.49 a piece. So happy I found them. I also picked up this thing, and honestly, I have no idea what it is, but the glass part, that's what interests me. I intend to make a dome or cloche. That blue bottom part has no interest for me at all. So I'm going to remove the rubber band and I am going to donate that blue thing, whatever it might be. Hey, if you know, let me know if you know what the heck this is. This, on the other hand, is what I really am after. It cost $2.99. What a deal. I absolutely love the shape of this. Now I need to get this little handle off. So to get that handle off, I am using a Windex cleaner and a razor blade scraper and a little bit of Windex and a little bit of scraping, and this thing starts to come off. It's really surprising how fast this thing was coming off. A little more scraping, a little more Windex, and ta-da, it is off. Yay. Now for the next step. You may remember this. I originally had bought 4 of these little drawer pulls at the Hobby Lobby. I got them on sale. 3 of them were used in this project. I will leave a link for that video in the description box. So 3 have been used, which leaves me with this 4th one. I am going to use this one on top of my dome to act as a handle, and it will coordinate beautifully with those flowers I made with the other 3. The key here is to get that a little drawer pull in the center, because if it's not in the center, this is going to look ridiculous, and I want it to look beautiful and not ridiculous. So I take it and I draw a circle around the base of the little dome onto some cardboard. Then I use my tape measure to measure it out to find the exact center. Once I find the exact center, I'm going to mark it. I'm going to mark it vertically and horizontally, and then in a couple other places so that I am sure I have the exact center. I place my dome on my trace circle, I line up the center, and I glue the drawer pull right smack dab in the middle using Gorilla Glue. Once that drawer pull is dry and secure, I'm going to add that little decorative piece that was part of this drawer pull to begin with. I am just using 3-in-1 glue to glue it into place. I'm also creating with wire the center of my flower, making the pistil and some stamen so that it really does coordinate with those flowers I made previously. I will have 5 pieces of wire cut in total, all different sizes, and I will glue those into the center of my drawer pull, once again using 3-in-1 glue. Then I will set it aside and let it dry. Once dry, I bust out my hot glue gun and I make that little dimension that is at the top of the stamen and the pistil. I basically just make a little dot and then I swirl it so that it doesn't leave a whole lot of string, but it's going to leave some. It is hot glue. I do all 5 and then I let it cool down, and then we're going to paint the stamen and the pistil. I'm using a combination of 2 different paint colors. The first being Folk Art Matte Burnt Umber, the other being Crafter's Collection Copper Aged Metallic. I am painting them on at the same time. A little bit of one paint, and then I come back while it's still wet, and then I add the copper. And this will give me a beautiful look without being too bright and sparkly, but not quite matte. The combination of the 2 is really pretty. Now it's time to make a base for my cake dome. When I made those flowers, I had 4 of these in total, and I made 3 flowers. So this is the extra component I had from that project. And this is a thrifted item. And it is, I think, was something more than just this. The bottom has almost like a little screw component, like it was screwed into a stand. So it's basically a plate that can't stand up straight, but not anymore. We're gonna glue it inside that other component to form our base. I will use quite a plethora of glue, and then place the little screw bottom inside the hole. I need to make sure this is level, and then I'm going to set it aside and I will let it dry, and this project is complete. I made a quick trip to Walmart and I picked up some myrtle and some hens and chicks and a boxwood for my garden. Check this video out to see what else I have done with hens and chicks. I'll leave the link in the description box.
My projects are complete. Let's take a look, and I want to start with the indoor decor.
What started is this very unusual cooking utensil, a candle cup, and an odd plate turned into this. A fabulous pedestal cake plate and a cake dome to accompany it. That just so happens to coordinate with the flowers I created. Using a couple extra spare parts and some thrifted items, and this is what I get. And this is something I will keep forever. I absolutely love it, especially how it looks with my flowers. And when I'm not entertaining, I will probably store those spectacular amethyst Venetian glass plates under that dome. The iridescence in those plates reflect back onto the pistil and the stamen and that beautiful coppery color that they're painted. Now I think we should head outside into my garden. Quick garden update. There are my blue iris, which I absolutely adore. Not too many people have true blue flowers in their yard. There's my Japanese maple, and back there is just one of my peony bushes, just about to bloom. And here's another little bird that came to visit me. He hung out for about 15 minutes, and when he flew away, I was rather sad, but he was back shortly with a friend. I don't know all my birds, just the common ones. But by the beak, he looks like a woodpecker. If anyone out there can identify this bird for me, please let me know in the comments, because I would absolutely love to know what my little friend is. This is the far side of my garage, and this was before I gave it a real good weeding, prepping it for my mailbox and my summer decor. Here's my mailbox in place. I have displayed it vertically and sunk 2 screws down through the bottom of the mailbox into my base. Nothing much to write home about, right? The lid is closed, the flag is in place, but let's put that lid up. Now, how about that flag? Even though our flag is in a position it never should be, and you can see the rivet there that I glued on, still nothing so special. That's why we definitely needed to add those flowers to coordinate with the base, to bring it all together, because there's a serious disconnect between the top and the bottom at this point. But take a look at this. You can see the metal base. I have added a flower at the bottom and a vine of flowers near the flag. There's also a vine of flowers coming out the back of my little mailbox. And that black totally brings the whole thing together. The black from the flowers, that rusty galvy dark brown center of my flowers helps coordinate with the rest of the mailbox. And there we have the base again. And I've added leaves down there, a vine of leaves, another flower on the side, and it brings it all together. How about that bow? Just one extra embellishment, and none of these are permanent. None of them. This whole thing could be disassembled by simply lifting the flowers up, lifting the bow up, and unscrewing the mailbox. And then your mailbox is just as it was before we even put it in that wedding video. You could use this for a cooler. So a hot summer day, or when you're entertaining, fill it with ice and put your favorite beverage inside. How about storing your garden tools? What a perfect place. What a pretty place. You could put lights in there when you're entertaining at night. Or how about just using it as a planter or a vase? I think this is my favorite, just full of flowers. I cut some boxwood and picked some other things from my yard and just filled it full. Perfect drainage already. Can't go wrong. And so pretty, so pretty. Just another fun way to use an old metal mailbox. Thanks again to Marika, Monica, Jody, Annie, and Zena for joining me in this Last Thing Thrifted. You're going to find the links to their channels in this playlist in my description box below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like, share it with your family and your friends and anyone that loves thrifting, repurposing, DIYs, gardening, entertaining, shabby chic, rustic, and French country decor. You can follow me on Instagram and don't forget to check out my Etsy shop. Leave me a comment. I would absolutely love to hear from you. Ring the bell for notifications of all of my upcoming videos. Subscribe. You know you wanna, and it's a great way to support my channel. But for now, this is Dawn with Shabby Meets Bling. Thank you so much for watching, and I really look forward to seeing you next time.